I just wanted to start off by saying that this video is going to be spoiler free, or as spoiler free as I can make it. So yeah. Hello and welcome to another video! Today we are going to be reviewing a book that I just finished reading yesterday, and it is absolutely amazing, guys. You don't even know. It's so good! And that book is Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. This is his new book that just came out the other week. I think it came out like 2 weeks ago over my fall break. This is not actually my book, it's actually my teacher's book, and she's lending it to me because she is a sweetheart, and I'm so happy for her to have lent me this book. But it's so good and I'm so happy I read it. For those of you who have not read this book yet and you're watching this video because you're kind of interested to see what my opinions on this book are, it's amazing, and I am just going to read you guys a little excerpt of the first page. Nothing spoiler, it's literally the first page, so you know what you're missing out on, because this book, literally, I was hooked from the instant I started reading.
At the time I first realized I might be fictional, my weekdays were spent at a publicly funded institution on the north side of Indianapolis called White River High School, where I was required to eat lunch at a particular time, between 12:37 p.m. and 1:14 p.m., by forces so much larger than myself that I couldn't even begin to identify them. If those forces had given me a different lunch period, or if the table mates who helped author my fate had chosen a different topic of conversation that September day, I would have met a different end, or at least a different middle. But I was beginning to learn that your life is a story told about you, not one that you tell. Of course, you pretend to be the author. You have to. You think, I now choose to go to lunch, when that monotone beep rings from on high at 12:37. But really, the bell decides. You think you're the painter, but you're the canvas.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the first page of Turtles All the Way Down. If you're not hooked yet, I don't know what you will be, but trust me, this book is amazing. Alright, so we're gonna jump right into my review. I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars. I haven't actually currently, at the time that I'm filming this video, written my GOODREADS review on it, but I will be linking it down below. I finished it and I wasn't really entirely sure, like my thoughts weren't together, and I just wasn't entirely sure what to say about this book or how to feel about it, cause, oh my lord. It was a little bit insane. But for those of you who don't know what this book is about, for those of you who haven't read it yet, it basically follows our main character, Azza. And Azza is a germaphobe. She has a lot of different issues. She kind of has to see a therapist, and she thinks that she's crazy. She fears that she is not real, because she thinks that her life is controlled by people that are not herself. And she fears like bacteria and microbes, and knows that she's made up of a whole bunch of bacteria, and her mind is kind of a whirlwind of thoughts. And while she's struggling with this in the novel, you have her and her friend trying to uncover this mystery. So basically, this billionaire goes missing because he was going for a fraud credit or something like that. So he disappears one night in the middle of the night for absolutely no reason, and everyone is looking for him. And the person who finds him gets $100,000 as a reward, or helps to find him. They get $100,000 as a reward. So Azza knows this billionaire's son, and she used to be friends with him, and so they basically devise this plan to go and talk to this billionaire's son to see if he knows anything, and to find their father so they can get the money, because they're basically poor and they want to split it up and stuff like that. And it kind of has to revolve around that story while Azza is struggling, and it kind of just has to do with her figuring things out, and I thought it was absolutely amazing. I didn't really go into this novel. I wasn't entirely sure what it was about when I went into it. I just knew that it had to do with our main character trying to uncover a mystery, and I thought that was insane. And then I went into it and I was like, holy, what is going on? Her mind is insane. But basically, one of the things you travel through as you're reading the novel is you kind of go along with Azza, and I really related to Azza in certain aspects. Like, the way that we think is very similar. So Azza has these things that she likes to call spirals, and she believes that when she starts thinking about something, it leads to another thought, and then that thought leads to another thought, and then that thought leads to another thought, and another thought, until she ends up in this this spiral that keeps tightening around her. And I'm sure if you guys have read any of the reviews on GOODREADS, a lot of people use the quote that she uses in here. It's like she's going down an ever-tightening spiral or something like that. And this entire story has a lot to do with spirals, and I just think that it's absolutely genius. Like, John Green is a genius. The title of the story actually, you'd think, you're like, what does that even mean, turtles all the way down? You'll figure it out. Trust me. They'll tell you in the story. I don't want to spoil it, but they tell you in the story what the title means. And I had this total, it's like at the end of the story when everything is starting to become clear again. Basically throughout the story, you kind of go through this haze. Like, you start off kind of like, I don't know what's happening, and then slowly you get sucked into Aza's thoughts, and you start to go down this rabbit hole, and it just keeps getting smaller and smaller as you go down, and then you're in this haze, and then at the end of the novel, everything kind of becomes clearer again, and that's when the title of this book comes into play. And I just think that John Green is an absolute genius. The way that he represents his characters are absolutely amazing. But the way that he writes his characters is amazing. He has such a poetic writing. Like, the way that he shows their mind is so amazing. Like, he really shows what she's struggling with, and he makes his characters realistic. They're not perfect. I like that John Green's stories have a happy ending in a sense, but at the same time, they don't have a happy ending. And I love that. Like, I can't get enough of it. It's amazing. Like, it's like his stories are realistic because you know that at the end of the story, everyone dies. And Aza's that character that's like, yeah, at the end of every story, everyone always ends up dying, and you're just gonna have to deal with it. Like, that's just how it works. No story is technically a happy ending, but yet he makes it feel like it's a happy ending, and I love that. I love it. Like, it's so cool. And just the way that he writes it very poetic, so it's like, every single other line of this novel you could use as a quote. Like, what kind of writer can do that? Like, he's a genius. He's a genius. Like, I don't even know. I don't even know how else to describe it. And I genuinely enjoyed it. I gave this book a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I think I said a 5 out of 5 stars earlier in this video, but I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars because Aza really, because I related to her a lot, every time I would read her thoughts, I would start to get really annoyed, and then it would start to give me anxiety because Aza is one of those characters that looks at the world in a negative way. Like, she can literally look at any situation and find only the negative things about it. And I am the exact opposite. So we think very similar, but also in the opposite way. So every time I look at a situation, I think of all the positive things that are going to happen unless I'm like absolutely terrified. But then I try to tell myself like, hey, everything is fine. And I feel like this book just really brought back a lot of bad memories for me from freshman year. So I was kind of like anxiety every time I read it. So I had to kind of split it up into a couple of days because her thoughts are like insane. But like I couldn't mark it down a whole star because I got frustrated with Aza a lot because she thought negatively, because it fit her character and it made her seem a lot more real because it makes sense that she's struggling with that and she is a negative person. And you see like the hardships that she deals with her friendship, and the novel is just very real, but at the same time it's like not real. Like you wouldn't actually see something like this happen, but at the same time it's like really, really cool, and so it makes it seem real. I don't know. But yeah, I gave this novel a 4.5 out of 5 stars. It was a 5-star for me, but I had to knock it down just because I had issues with Aza. I don't even know how to say her name. Aza. But I loved the way that he builds his characters. Like, he really goes in depth with his characters, and like you don't even realize that you're learning like a whole bunch of backstory about them. Like the fact that her dad named her Aza because he wanted her name to be all the way from the beginning of the alphabet to the end and then back again. And I just love that because like it really does show like that's who she is. And I don't know, like I love it. Like the way that she describes her name, the way that she is as a person, the way that she describes that, the way that she describes her relationship with her parent, and the way that she describes things without describing things, I think is really what gets me. And I don't know, I just thought it was a genuinely amazing novel. Good job, John Green. You wrote another amazing novel, and this is definitely a book that I'm going to end up reading again in my lifetime, multiple times probably, because it's very uplifting. Like, it teaches you a lesson very clearly. Like, he's one of those kinds of authors that his stories just like to teach you things and like to get you to think in a different way, and I love that, and this book was so good. So if you hear a lot of hype about this book and how good it is, trust me, it really is. And that's coming from someone who isn't that big of a fan of contemporary novels. I don't really like contemporary novels, and I've never really been that big of a fan of John Green's novels in just, like, in total. Not because he's a bad author, I just, like, I'm not into that kind of genre, but I decided to pick this up because obviously my teacher lent it to me, and she's like, hey, do you want to read it? And I was like, yeah, I've heard really good things about it, and I thought it sounded interesting, and obviously I love John Green. He's an amazing author, so I decided to read it, and I genuinely enjoyed it, and I don't say that about a lot of his novels. Like, I didn't really enjoy Fault in Our Stars that much. I just thought it was overhyped and it wasn't amazing. Like, it wasn't as good as everyone thought it was, but I liked Turtles All the Way Down, and trust me, you more than likely will too, especially if you like contemporary novels, and especially if you like diverse characters. The main character, obviously, she thinks she's crazy. Like, she thinks she's insane. She has a lot of mental issues because she is a germaphobe. Like, she doesn't like germs. She doesn't like bacteria. She goes through a lot of issues, and the things that she does are so weird, but also so realistic to what would probably happen if someone was in her situation and dealing with what she dealt with. And I just like the way that she deals with things, and I just like this novel. It's really good. I would definitely highly recommend. But anyways, that is all that I can ramble on about Turtles All the Way Down. Let's just take one more look. I actually genuinely enjoy this cover. I don't know why people don't, but yes, highly recommend. Definitely go pick it up. And if that first page wasn't enough to hook you, boy, I don't know what will be, but definitely go do it. It's so poetic. It's so amazing, and I loved it. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. That is all for this video. If you're new here, make sure to stick around. And if you do, I guess that I'll see you in my next video. Goodbye!